What's up, YouTube? What's going on? I am 2 weeks into the OSCP. In essence, I've used 13 days and I have 77 days of lab time left. So I'm gonna just jump straight into this update without wasting your time. The first thing is, how am I studying? I will answer that by telling you how I was studying. So at first I thought about going through all the modules and then getting into the labs until one of the boys, Fabian, suggested that, well, he didn't suggest, he just told me what he was doing and I thought it made sense. So I started doing that as well. One module a day and then work on a machine, which works out pretty well because then you're not wasting time. There's about 75 machines that need to be pwned. And so I figured that would help me pwn at least a decent amount of machines before my time runs out. So that is how I'm studying. What are my thoughts on the material or offensive security in general? So getting started was a bit of a hassle. I had network problems and that was caused by myself and my VPN. I upgraded my VPN and it was not allowing outbound connection. So every time I tried to SSH into a machine for an exercise, it wouldn't connect. Even though I could ping the machines and whatnot over the OpenVPN tunnel, it just wasn't working. I talked to support and all of that until I figured that I had updated my VPN, which was my fault. So at first I wanted to blame OffSec, but it wasn't their fault. With regards to the actual material, right? I think it's pretty neat. The first few modules were pretty bland, stuff I already knew. And then there is some stuff I did learn, Linux command line stuff, which could come in handy. I mean, it will come in handy. It's pretty neat stuff. But after diving into the material and into the labs, especially the labs, I can see why people on the inside of offensive security become fanboys. The labs were pretty cool. They're really fun to go through. The way they're set up, the way the machines actually are, they're pretty fun boxes to go through. And I think I myself might just become a fanboy, because what I really have seen is that most of the criticism of the OSCP and OffSec in general comes from people on the outside, people that haven't bought the course, people that probably aren't willing to spend the initial $1,499 to start, maybe because they don't have the money or they just don't think it's worth it. But that's what I've noticed. Most of the hate comes from the outside. But once you're inside, you might get hooked. And I can tell you that I am hooked. I might start preparing for the OSED as soon as I'm done with this, right? Which is pretty cool. Did I say OSED? I think it's OSEP. I have no clue at this point. I haven't done my research, but you know what I mean. I've also had questions from people asking me what the difference between the OSCP and the PNPT might be. And I think the best way to sum it up would be the OSCP is more inclined to teach you how to gather information and exploit a system. That's the basics, right? That's the best way I can explain it in one sentence. And then the PNPT would be more inclined to teach you how to exploit human error. I think that sums it up best in a sense. So what I have learned so far is mostly information gathering. I've looked at a couple of write-ups for the machines just to see what they look like, which they do recommend you do. And the write-ups are long, not because the exploitation part is hard, but the people who do these machines, the people who actually do the write-ups, like the student mentors and whatever, they spend so much time gathering information on everything they see. They put it through Google, they take notes and move on to the next thing, which is something I didn't think I would want to do at first. I never did that, really. I would just triage and look at a port that might be interesting. If that doesn't work, I move on to another one that might be interesting. And then at some point, if I get stuck, I'm like, oh, wait, did I miss? Right? Gathering information this way would help you in putting things together. And in case you missed something, I mean, if you gather information this way, you're probably not going to miss anything, to be honest. It's a really good thing to put everything in one place and then move on to the next thing. I've learned that methodology is important, right? Because if you get stuck, you're going to panic. And if you panic, you're probably not going to be able to move on, right? You're probably not going to be able to get the foothold or Prevesk, which which means you're losing points, right? The goal is to pass. I think it's 70 points to pass. I have no clue what some of these things are. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. What do you do when you get to a certain point? What do you do at the beginning of a machine? How do you take your steps? How do you move forward? When you get the foothold, what do you do first when you see what user you are and what privileges you have? What are the first things you do when you jump onto a machine? What are the first things you do when you see a certain service? What are the first things you do when you see certain ports, right? Methodology. You can't just keep bouncing around, trying one thing and then try another. It didn't work. Go back to the first thing thinking it might work because you did the wrong thing, and then that doesn't work. Look for something else. It's a mess. It'll be a mess. I used to do that, but now I'm learning to be a bit more calm. And I think information gathering is kind of bland and boring. People usually want to jump straight to the exploitation, popping a shot, the cool stuff. But yeah, you will fail if you do that. You need to be calm and collected, gather your information properly, and then move on to the next step in your methodology, right? That's what I've learned so far. And so I was doing a machine today and I found myself taking notes on all the ports. I didn't jump into port 80, which was open, which I usually do. I mean, it's usually the quickest way in. But I took the time to gather information and everything else. And then I put it into my notes and then started looking at the services, which is impressive. I'm impressed by that myself, to be honest. I didn't think I'd get to such a point whereby I have things in order, because, bro, me when I was hacking back then, it was a mess, bro. It was a mess. But that is it so far. Updates will be in increments of 2 weeks, and let's see what we can do with these 77 days. I have a group of people I'm studying with. If you want to join the boys, you can hit up the Discord server and we can study together. Until next time, don't get hacked, stay out of trouble. Peace.